Miles, what's up, man?
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
Doing good, man. Just hanging out with the family. 3 girls, wife, 4 hens and a dog. Here we go.
Right. That's one of the things is as big as of a disruption this all is, I'm trying to enjoy the time at home as well. I'm still working from home, but when you don't really get this much, time this often to really spend time with your family in the mornings and all throughout the week and stuff. So you got to take the good with the bad, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of a blessing where it kind of pulls everyone back to reality as far as what is important. We live in such a fast-paced life now compared to
Right.
what it was the way when we grew up, and it's kind of good to slow the pace, and you get to enjoy that time with your kids and family, and it's funny the things that you kind of miss along the way, even though you're home all the time. You miss a lot compared to what you do now when you're home 24/7. So it's pretty cool.
No doubt, man. Now, this has to be kind of weird for you because normally you guys would be gearing up for your spring tour right now. How many years in a row has it been like spring you guys are out on the road?
Oh, I mean, 20 years of touring, this is the first time it's kind of weird to just be home, forced to be home as opposed to taking the time off on your own. But yeah, it's a trip. It's definitely, as a musician, you love being out there with the fans and on stage playing music with your friends, and you feed so much off that energy of life, and when you don't have it, it definitely, even for myself, you kind of, whoa, it's like hitting the brakes real hard, driving 80 down the freeway.
Right. Well, a good way to fill that void is with more workouts. That's what I'm going to recommend, right?
Yeah, of course. So I appreciate that video you sent me of the book you sent me on the email.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
That was great.
I got some stuff that we want to get into today that I think will be interesting for people to hear. But the first thing I'm going to lead with, because I actually get this question a lot. People will see me, if I post like, hey, I'm hanging out with you guys at the Ledges, or I'm always repping your songs and the videos and stuff. People are like, how do you know these guys? And I'm like, well, here's the story. All right. So I'd always been fans of you guys, of the music, but didn't really know much about you. I knew that you guys were somehow affiliated with Sublime. That was how I first heard of you. And, just always, loved the rock and reggae vibe. But like I said, I don't even think I followed you on Instagram or anything, so I didn't really know much about you as a musician. Well, this would have been probably maybe 3 years ago. Clay Guida, my partner, Max Effort Muscle, good friend of yours.
Yep.
Yeah. So we brought him in at Ohio State, and he served as the honorary coach for a big dual meet against Minnesota, which was an awesome experience. It was really cool to hang out with him for the weekend, but also it kind of sucked because it was this huge dual meet. It was all hyped up. They had it in the big basketball arena, and a blizzard hit that day.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so literally it went from like us having probably, 15,000 wrestling fans there to, 2,000 or 3,000 because it was like a whiteout. We got like a foot of snow. But anyway, so Clay came in, served as the honorary captain or the honorary coach. We had a great weekend. And then he posted a picture of me and him and Coach Ryan and Coach Lagnev on the mat. People tag you in a picture or whatever, and you kind of see the comments. And I saw a comment from Slightly Stoopid, and it was like, I can't remember what it said, but right away I knew. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I can tell they are wrestlers because of just the way, whatever you said about, being a coach or whatever it was. I was like, holy shit. I was like, I love these guys, So I think I reached out to you and was like, hey, man, like, I'm the strength guy in that picture with Clay. Like, I'm a huge fan of yours, blah, blah, blah. And then we just kind of hit it off like that and started going back and forth, talking about wrestling and reggae and whatever else. So that's how it happened.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I mean, I remember when we met you, and what's cool about the wrestling family is it actually is when you reach out around the States, there's tons of them everywhere, and it kind of brings everyone together, just the respect level, because once, just on the mental side of it, once you've wrestled and gone through that process, like your mental is so tough, and the way those guys approach life and just in general, it's something that kind of connects us all. And that's why I like that family, because I responded to that photo just because I've been friends with Clay, and it's just cool how you saw it, came, and now we've been hanging out since. You've been coming to the shows, and we've been engaged, and so it's pretty rad.
Yeah, it's kind of like once you know someone's a wrestler, and on some levels you kind of know what you're getting right off the bat. You already know there's gonna be, you're gonna be different. You're from Cali, I'm from Ohio, Clay's from Chicago, whatever, but having that wrestling background, it's like you already know there's going to be certain things you're going to have in common with this person, at least even from a mindset standpoint.
Yeah, of course.
So let's talk about your wrestling background then.
So my whole family is pretty much has wrestled. All my brothers and sisters. My dad's been coaching for about 35 years, and he actually just retired this year. They dedicated the wrestling room to him at the Point Loma High School that we coached at, and
I'm sorry, what school is it?
it was Point Loma High School in San Diego.
Gotcha.
And so he had coached there when I was a kid. He had coached there for a good 10 years, and then he moved to a different school. And then about a while ago, a buddy of mine that I grew up with playing baseball and just hanging out my whole life, he asked, hey, the coaching position opened up at Point Loma, and asked if I'd join him. And I was able to coach with him there for 9 years, which is incredible. And then my little brother ended up going to high school there while I was coaching. And my dad came back to the school while I was coaching. So it was like the whole family was there. And it was a great experience just being able to be around the kids for that many years. You go from, the freshmen to the seniors, just watching them turn into young men, and the respect level that they have from when they first get on the mat to when they leave. And it's just great, man, being able to do that in the community. And I did it for almost 10 years. And as far as coaching, and I wrestled when I was younger, but I think coaching is ultimately what I really love to do. I coach girls softball now because all my girls play ball, but
right.
Coaching is something that's been a part of my whole life growing up. So it's just kind of something that thank God I can take the time about 4 months out of the year. I take off from touring to coach the kids. And that's really what's important to me. Like, I love being around the young kids and watching them develop and having a chance to be part of their lives. And it kind of, once you coach kids, you notice like forever, like the wrestlers that I've coached still come back and they call me and say, hey coach, I'm in town. Can we come say hi and this and that. So it's pretty cool. Just the connection that you make with so many kids.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And I'll get back to the kids, but I think the coolest part of that story is this was still while you were a rock star. So you're touring all, spring, summer, and fall. You come home to California and then coach wrestling all winter, So I think that's something that, I wasn't aware of, even, being a fan of your music or whatever. And I think probably a lot of people aren't aware of, like, you were on that touring rock and roll grind and then coaching wrestling in the winter and getting to coach your brother and his buddies and stuff. So and working with your dad, what a cool experience, man.
Well, if you think about both of them are the grind, because you're on the grind on the mat and then you're on the grind on the road. So it's what's really cool is kind of the blessing of being able to do the things that I love the most. You know what I mean? I love coaching and I love playing music, and I get to do both of them for my, careers. And it's just amazing to be able to do that and have the time. I thank my guys in the band too, just like allowing me to have time to coach kids. It's really important, to be able to do that. And life's short. You gotta take advantage of every moment. So
no doubt, man. Well, what would you, now that you're immersed in the softball world, your girls are playing, who do you think are the crazier parents, youth softball parents or youth wrestling parents?
Dude, honestly, I think the softball parents are way crazier. Like
every time I see a fist fight break out at a youth game, it's at like a little league game or something. It's always a baseball field. Parents are storming the field and throwing blows.
It's actually really funny, man. You look out, because sometimes I'll be loud on the field, just because you have that wrestling voice from being in the gym. Your voice gets a little loud, so I bring that sometimes to the field. But you hear some of the parents screaming and yelling. You're just like, this is awesome. The energy, like sometimes it gets a little over the top, but that kind of excitement for youth sports is so funny, and it's really electrifying though when you think about it. Just when a kid is a certain age, from like 8 to 12 years old, they change so much, and you watch them. These are girls that I'm talking about now, just playing softball, and you watch the development. Just because they get taller, they kind of develop quicker than boys do, so their intelligence level is already through the roof, and what they can do, and it's really awesome to see. And I've been doing it. I've been coaching them now for 5 years down at the league. Peninsula Youth Softball. It's pretty awesome, man. It's right down the street. It's where I grew up playing baseball when I was a kid. So it's pretty cool to be at the same fields that all my brothers and sisters played at, and my kids play at. All my friends that I grew up with, their kids play there now. So it's kind of a cool, just like a flip of time. We're our parents now in the whole community, which is rad. So it's a great thing.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Now, how many girls do you have?
I have 3 daughters.
And what's the age range?
10, 8, and 3.
10, 8, and 3. Yeah, so my oldest, so I have a boy and a girl. My oldest, she's 10. And so we're at the same stage right there. And you probably see this too, but it's like, you know, they look like kids for so long. They're, you know, they're toddlers. They look like kids. And now even at 10 years old, I mean, she's still a kid, but I'm starting to like be able to look at her and see what she's going to look like when she's going to be a woman, you know?
I know.
Like she's starting to look like a little miniature version of my wife. And it's crazy to me, you know?
It is. And what's nuts is you never realize it until you're a parent on how fast it goes, really. Like
it's unreal.
When I was a kid, when you were a kid, it felt like time was just standing still. Like everything took forever. Like nothing went by fast. And then now it's like you wish you could hit that slow button because
But you can't.
Weeks. Yeah.
No, it just goes faster and faster. And I remember one time asking my old man something like that. This would have been a while ago because it was when he was like 50. So I guess I would have been probably like 25. And that's when I was starting, you know, I was done with college. I was kind of out in the real world, and I started to notice the passage of time was much different, man. It used to feel like the summers were forever, you know?
I know.
And I remember asking him, I was like, Dad, like, why is it? Because I'd heard him say things before about how it goes fast and your kids grow up fast and stuff. And he just said, think of it this way. He's like, it's our perception of time. We base all of our perception of everything off our life experience, right? Well, when you're 10 years old, each year is 1/10 of your experience. So it's a very big chunk of your life. He said, when you get to be 50, like me, each year is 1/50th. He's like, and it just goes every year. It's a smaller slice of the pie. And before you know it, you don't even see them going by. So it's kind of a crazy way to think about it. You know, like now I'm going to be 41 in a couple months, 6 weeks, losing track of time here. How old are you now, Miles?
I turned 43 this week, actually.
So we're, for all intents and purposes, we're about halfway through the game, you know?
No doubt. My life's half over.
Now, the good thing is, though, I think, you know, both of us are doing, like what you touched on. You on a daily basis, you're getting to do what you love, whether it's playing music, coaching your girls, coaching athletes, spending time with the family. You know, for me, it's, you know, I'm coaching athletes, you know, working out, making content, motivating people, you know, spending time with my kids. So we're both in a position where, you know, we're halfway through the game, and I think we're in the lead at this point.
Yeah, big time. And what's good is, like, my buddy Kyle that I started the band with, we grew up together since 2 years old, which is like basically like brothers from other mothers. So it's kind of like just continuation of family. When you're at home, I'm with my family, and then when I'm on the road, I'm with my family. So it's
like my partner
cool.
At the gym, Corey G. We started lifting weights together when we were 15. Now we own a gym, you know?
Yeah.
So same type of thing. Not quite the same as going back to 2 years old, but, you know, next best thing. You know, we met before we could drive. And, I mean, I even think I had my first job ever when I was 16 as a dishwasher at Ponderosa with him. And we've been literally working together ever since. So same type of thing, probably with you and Kyle. There's no gray area. You guys understand each other so well. You understand your behavior. You've been around each other your whole life. Yeah. There's no need to explain things. And that's kind of the same way me and my partner Corey G are. So it is definitely a cool thing, man.
Yeah, I mean, not many people can go through life saying basically like you just hang out with your friends and family for work, travel the world, you know, come home, coach kids. Like it's kind of one of those pinch yourself scenarios. You couldn't have dreamed that as a kid, going, hey, you're going to just love everything you do your whole life. Not everything, but you know what I mean? Like everything that you put your efforts into, you're going to love it. And that's going to be your life. So it's pretty special, and definitely don't take it for granted just because of, the moments you get between the kids and friends and doing what we do. It's you know, it's super special, and it's a blessing, and you can't really, you know, like I said, you can't take it for granted.
No doubt, man. Well, let's rewind a little bit then, back in, you know, for you and Kyle way back, because I think you may have partially told me this story when we were on the tour bus one night, but that I'm not sure I really remember it fully. So I would like to hear, because like I said, I had originally heard you guys because I knew that you were somehow affiliated with Sublime. So kind of give me that story of how you and Kyle started a band together, how you got hooked up with Sublime back in the day, and kind of tell me, you know, give us the meat and potatoes of that.
All right. It's kind of a funny story.
I'm sure you've told it a million times, but let's hear it here.
Yeah, no, there's a couple cool parts of it. So before we even started playing guitars, we used to, like, you know, we were like into like Motley Crue and bands like that, just rock bands. And that's when MTV was massive. And this is when MTV was rad. It actually played music television, not whatever it does now. But
right.
So all these Motley Crue videos were going, and me and Kyle were just sitting there looking at each other going, dude, we need to learn how to play guitars. Like, that just looks awesome. And so literally we just started playing guitars when we were like 12 years old, maybe right around there. And we started the band in high school. We've been friends. We've literally been brothers from other mothers our whole lives. So we're basically, you know, as close as it gets. And we started the band like 15, 16 years old in high school at Point Loma. And we would just play house parties and all that kind of stuff, and kind of played our first real show at this place called Soma, which is the only like all ages place for punk rock bands, ska bands, that kind of era of things can play shows for kids and whatnot. So that's where we started, and we met Sublime.
Well, let me ask you. So at this point, would you say musically, you guys were a little bit, and you still have a mix of everything, but at this point, was it kind of more punk rock or heavy metal type that you guys were
Yeah, it was definitely heavier, more like aggressive, just kind of fuck the world mentality. We were kids, just punk kids, and you know, we were into Minor Threat and those kind of bands, Bad Religion and stuff like that. So Operation Ivy, I don't know if you remember Operation Ivy or not.
I don't.
You should check it out. It's a super dope band. But we one night Sublime was playing at this bar called Dream Street. It only holds about 90 people to 100 people, maybe like 100 people in OB. And I was 16 at the time. And my mom's friend made me a fake ID to go to the bar to go watch Sublime play with my mom and her husband.
I love this woman. Yeah.
Dude, it was actually incredible. It was a legit California license back in like 1993. I looked like a baby too. I don't even know how it worked, but it had all my info and it was just perfect. So I got into bars. I was able to buy, you know, beer everywhere at 16 years old. And so we get into this bar at Dream Street, and they play this show in front of like 60 people. This is right before they exploded. Mm-hmm. This was, yeah, I think right around 93, somewhere right there. And somehow my mom and her husband got to talking to Brad and Miguel, and somehow got them to come back to my house the next day. And I had all these guitars and like 4-tracks and different kind of music equipment. And we just started jamming and talking and kind of became like the little brothers to those dudes, Brad and Miguel. And it was kind of a trippy situation just because we're such fans as a kid. You know, we would go before we paddle out, we put in the 40 Ounce to Freedom cassette tape. This is back when
right.
Were still around. And just to meet those guys back then, it was just kind of like, holy shit, you know, this is pretty incredible. And what's good is, you know, out from there, you know, we went up to Long Beach a lot, and we got to record in this place called the Fake Nightclub. It was total ghetto 8-track studio. If you saw it, when people say, hey, you got signed to Skunk Records, I was just like, hey, but if you saw, you know, the studio, it's not like this like glamorous thing or anything. It was super punk rock and old school, and just kind of like a tough, it kind of description of the environment that they kind of lived in and portrayed a little bit too, you know. And
well, if you think about it, and I would say this kind of mirrors, you know, my world, the gym world, it, you know, the type of music you guys were playing, the type of kids you were, if you all of a sudden got your first experience with real recording and a record label would have been in like some high-rise suite and all decked out, like it would have ruined you guys. You wouldn't have developed the same musically. No way.
Yeah, no, there's definitely something to be said about just the grind, you know what I mean, of doing things and kind of earning your stripes. And the biggest thing we actually learned from Brad and Miguel back in the day was just tore your asses off. And that's what we did. Like we got in a van, you know, 18 years old, and we're on the road 250 days a year, just mashing, driving, sleeping on floors, in the van, wherever you could, $50 to get gas and food to get to the next town. You know, you just kind of got to earn, you know, you got to earn your fans. We started touring before the internet, so we actually had to flyer towns. You know, we had to, you know, we had a street team, and this was kind of like right when Napster was just starting. You know what I mean? I don't know if everyone knows what Napster is, but that's kind of when streaming started.
In college, I had my music collection exploded with Napster in college. It was awesome.
Yeah. I mean,
you could just download anything.
Well, the thing about what was cool about Napster is we could only tour Colorado West because no one in the East Coast really knew who we were. And once Napster happened, people started checking out, going, hey, let's check out this Skunk Records band, because Skunk Records, because of Sublime, had this, you know, just had this indie, feel throughout the communities of, what was dope. They're like, it didn't matter who was on it. They'd be like, hey, let's check out these skunk bands. And that's how we first started getting people at the shows. And what's cool is that fan base is still there. It was such an organic building where, you see the same fans from 15, 20 years ago, and they bring their kids to the shows now, and it's kind of a trip, so it's kind of multi-generation where the age groups go from like 10 years old all the way up to 70 years old at the shows. It's pretty crazy, man. It's kind of rad.
It's super wild. And I think, maybe that commitment you guys had to that touring grind early on is probably how you've built such a loyal fan base. And, whereas Napster, when it came along, it probably hurt a lot of the bigger bands because these bands were making all their money from their album sales, and they would maybe do these little itty bitty specialty tours or whatever. They're relying on selling millions of records. Well, Napster comes along. Now they're not selling records. Whereas you guys, it just helped you guys expand your reach, people that were curious. And then now once you are able to expand that touring across the country, you can get them in person. That's where you're really going to make a connection with them and kind of turn them into lifelong fans. There is the live experience.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what one of the benefits for this band is just the organicness and the grassroots of the fan base where it started. Like, we call them stupid heads or SA locos. But it's for real. Like, they grew up with the band, and we used to tour so many times. And we go to Colorado and play like 12 shows. We go to 12 different cities in Colorado. It's not like, we hit every ski town, and now like we've, every year we go to Red Rocks, and it's sold out every year with some of the greatest fans in the world. That's I believe that's one on your bucket list as far as wanting to come to a Red Rocks show.
Yeah, I've always wanted to come to a Red Rocks show. I'm definitely saving it for a Slightly Stoopid show, though, for sure. So,
dude, it's honestly it's the greatest outdoor venue on the planet.
It looks unbelievable.
Yeah, you're playing in God's country, and I told you earlier, like, we can go, whitewater rafting before the gig, and get a little, energy buzz. You can run the bleachers. Everyone's.
I was gonna say we got to run the steps for sure.
Yeah, everybody all day long runs the steps. It's pretty cool, and it's just Colorado's a special place. If I wasn't living in San Diego where I grew up, I would definitely probably head to Colorado just because it's so beautiful. The people are great, and it really is kind of it's like a second home to Slightly Stoopid. We spent so much time there growing up. When everyone wasn't touring in the winter, we would tour. We would just take the van and go. And people would come out because bands didn't want to tour when the snow was going crazy back then, and so that was kind of, for us, we would just say, hey, we're just going to go spend 2 months in the snow and play all these towns. And it's really just a great group of people, great state.
No doubt, man. Well, I'll definitely make it out to Red Rock to hang with you, at some point. But I normally get to see you at, my favorite concert place here in Ohio, which is Nelson's Ledges, man. I love that place.
Love it.
And I love going to your shows or any shows for the same reasons other people do, for the music and to party and to hang out and all that stuff. But the thing that I love about Nelson's Ledges, and anyone that's watching that's never been there, that's unfamiliar with it, I think it's an old quarry that's then been filled in with water, so it's super deep. There's cliffs you can jump off of. They usually have the stage right by the beach area, so when it's hot and you can swim all day and stuff. So for me, it's like the perfect meshing of my two worlds, fitness and reggae. So I can go in between bands and swim laps and stuff like that, go cliff diving and all that stuff. So I love that place. And
and it's great.
Yeah, probably one of my favorite memories from there was this past summer. We're hanging out with you guys after your show, and my buddies that I go to always go to the shows with. These are my buddies from college. We've been friends forever. We're hanging out on the bus, and I think we saw you before the show, and we tried to get you to go swimming. You didn't have time or whatever. You guys are getting ready for your set, and we're sitting there, and you're like, man, how was the water today? I'm like, dude, it's warm as bath water. You're like, I got to get in. So you got on like the phone or the walkie-talkie or whatever. And this is like 1 a.m. And I hope I don't get anyone in trouble here, but so the park sends over a lifeguard at like 1 a.m. I think the beach closes, at 9 when it gets dark.
Yeah.
And the lifeguard came over with a kayak, and they had these tiki torches. And they took us over the cliffs, put the tiki torches in, and it's like me and my dudes from way back, and you and your boys in the band, and we're just out there swimming in the dark in this huge quarry, and it was so peaceful and kind of eerie in a way. It was a really cool experience.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. Like, that was so fun after the gig like that, how the venue kind of opened it up for us. And I think they did it just because it was just us, you know, they knew it was a band and just a couple of our friends. And that's what was cool. Like doing that at night. I wish they would open it more at night. That's pretty rad, having the lifeguard out there. And like you said, he was out there on the kayak, and the tiki torches lit it up just perfect enough. And the quarry is just, it's kind of a special place. The water feels great, but just the vibe you get from the show, the way they set the stage up and the people camp out, and it's just kind of a cool spot. I'm glad that we moved out of the city and kind of been going to the ledges. I really dig it.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I like, you know, the camp. I like how the camping is there because it's spread out in the woods.
Yeah.
I much prefer that to just camping. And I do this too, but I mean, camping in a field for a show is just not as enjoyable to me. So,
No.
you know, me and my guys, we have a certain spot at the ledges we go to. It's way out there, so we're not next to anyone. We're out in the middle of the woods. That way I can wake up in the morning. I can just walk 50 feet from the tent and shit in the woods and not have to worry about anything beside me or anything like that. So, and actually after we went swimming that night, I can't remember if I told you this or not. So the next morning we get up and I was still like kind of riding that high of like the show and, you know, the night swim and how cool it was. And I was like, I got to go back to the beach and swim one more time before we head back to Columbus. And they're like, oh, I don't think they open the beach till 10 o'clock. And this is at like, you know, 7:38 in the morning. And I thought, you know what, like if I go and jump in and swim as fast as I can across it, you know, the quarry is maybe a couple hundred yards, maybe 200, 300 meters across. Is like, by the time they get out there to yell at me, I'm going to be far enough that I'll be, you know, have a nice, decent swim. So sure enough, I go up there to the beach, kind of look around, you know, no one's paying attention, dive in and just take off. And I got probably almost out to the cliff. So I'm probably, you know, 200 meters into the swim before, hey, you know, the lifeguard's over there waving and yelling and stuff. But now I had to swim back. So I took my time. Probably took me another 10 minutes to swim all the way back. They were all pissed off. I'm like, oh, sorry. You know, I didn't know. They're like, we're going to take your wristband. I'm like, bro, the show's over. I'm going home. You know, like I just want to get a little swim in. So
yeah, that place, man. I'm bummed that we're not going to be there this summer. What's weird is literally this is the first summer we're not touring in 20 years, and I can't even do anything.
So what's going to happen then? I mean, is it kind of a wait and see for you guys? Like maybe later in the summer or in the fall, you guys will try to regroup depending on what the situation is. What's everyone telling you?
Yeah, we don't even know yet what's going on. Everything's on hold. Like we're basically kind of on standby until the promoters and the venues say, hey, we got the green light. So hopefully if it's green lit, we'll go. But if not, you know, it's kind of crazy. I don't know. I don't know how they let, you know, people go into 5,000 plus venues a month after, you know, I just don't know how everything just jumps back into play like that. You know, they're talking about trying to get the country back on track, you know, opening up in first week of May. And it's just like, how do you?
That's not going to happen. There's no way.
How do you open up arenas that sell 30,000 seats? How do you open up football stadiums that hold, you know, 80,000 seats, 75,000? It's just, I just don't know how you do that. If you're a believer in what's going on in the pandemic and whatnot, I just don't know how you do that, you know?
No, and I think even for like you talk about reopening businesses, and there's been some talk about like, well, maybe once they reopen the businesses, they'll still have to enforce social distancing within the businesses and wearing masks and stuff like that. And I mean, to me, that makes sense. But at the same time, how can we do that in my gym? You know, I don't know how we could. So let's say even if everything opened in May, which I don't think it's going to, let's say even if it's June and they open everything up, with this still lingering around, I'm not sure how I can open my gym. You know, it's a small gym. It's close quarters. How are you going to wear masks in the gym? I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns, basically. So
yeah, but masks, once you start sweating, it's leaving the body. You know,
right?
I mean, you can't use the same gear. If the virus is still going around to people, it'll, you know, anything, you know, being in that kind of environment just spreads. And concerts, just think about it. You're like this, nuts
right.
and butts. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, what do you do? You know?
Yeah.
If you're smart, if they were smart, they should have shut everything down a few weeks ago, and then this stimulus would have actually meant something as far as you're bailing out all the fucking companies. They should have just shut everyone down for a month, except for grocery stores and, you know, extreme things that you really need, and we'd be probably already beating this.
No, I agree with you. And I kind of said that from the beginning of, all right, if we want to really slow this and get it under control nationwide across the board, lock everything down. It's going to be super painful, but it's like you rip the Band-Aid off, that might take 4 weeks, 6 weeks or whatever. But by that time you can have testing in place. You'll know who has it. You'll know who to isolate or whatever. And then you can kind of open everything back up. This gradual thing, I just think it's kind of going to prolong the pain. It's slowing it in some ways, but I'll give you an example. Last week, I live about 8 miles from my gym. I think I messaged you and Clay that day, but I rode my bike over to the gym, had to check on some things, kind of snuck in, got a quick workout in and rode back. But on the way over there and back, I got to pass the local golf course. It was a beautiful day. The golf course is fucking packed. Complete, so they deem golf courses essential, probably because they have lobbyists that are, pumping a lot of money in to get that approved that, hey, golf courses are, and supposedly they have to enforce social distancing. But like I'm riding my bike. People are in carts. There's lines everywhere. There wasn't a space left in the parking lot. And I mean, I don't like golf anyway, so I'm kind of like, fuck golf. But at the same time, like, how is this essential? It's not. Grocery stores, things like that, you got to have them open. But I think that there's no way you can tell me that there's not some risk to someone that's there taking it home, and whether they get sick or whether they pass it to their grandma or whatever it is. So I think, just this hodgepodge thing. Another thing, I got a buddy that owns a gym in Cincinnati. And if you know anything about Cincinnati, borders northern Kentucky, and northern Kentucky is essentially just a suburb of Cincinnati. Well, for the first couple of weeks where we had everything shut down here, which our governor was pretty aggressive about, Kentucky was still the Wild West and they had no shutdown. So what are all the college kids doing? They're just driving across the bridge and going to the bars in Kentucky there. Yeah. You can see them across the river. And so, when you have different states doing different things, that's why we're in the situation we're in right now.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you saw like the spring break photos from Florida where the beaches are just slam packed. But I mean, it is what it is. People, we live in a free country where, unless there was like military rule or some, martial law, people are basically going to say, "Fuck you." I'm not going to do exactly what you want me to do. And that's just kind of, it's a blessing and a curse, as far as moments like these, where if you really just took it seriously, everybody, even if it's an extreme crazy case of the virus or whether it's not, it's just, since the worldwide panic, if we would have just shut down, this thing would have just been squeezed out, and now it's going to drag out for a year, you know what I mean? And it is what it is, but there's millions of people. You can't think that it's not going to, spread when people get on airplanes every day still. And
right.
And
yeah, that's another thing. They should have locked air traffic down immediately, but I don't know. Well, here's the funny thing though, is that we definitely sound like middle-aged dads and not like, punk rockers or wrestlers or whatever.
I know.
So having a family and being a dad can definitely change your perspective on things, I think.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like I think a lot of people that are single and don't have those and aren't in relationships and whatnot, they don't really think about it as much. I more just think about the kids. Like we've had a couple driveway beers with like a couple cousins where they pull the car up to my driveway and then they stay at their car and we just drink a beer and talk, and I stay in my driveway just so you can kind of have a mental, engagement with people.
Right.
And we've been doing a lot of, what we've been doing is a lot of the family Zooms where everyone in the family gets on and we have cocktail hour and we drink for like 2 hours. So it's like a house party, but, just basically doing a FaceTime. And I think, that's the thing I miss the most, just being on the road where you get to engage with the fans and the energy you get from playing a live show and there's not really like a drug in the world or anything in the world that can pump you with that adrenaline besides like possibly like a crazy workout or a wrestling match, scrapping, whatever. But it's just like the energy you get from people on stage when your music's connecting with the people and you're connecting with the people. That's what I miss the most. It's just, it's kind of like someone just stole everything from you for a minute.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, man, coming to your shows, and you guys are always gracious enough when we're hanging out with you. Me and my buddies get to come like hang out on the side of the stage while you guys are playing. And even just being up there for me as a spectator, it feels different. Like the energy from the crowd as you guys are playing, I can see how that can be such an addiction and such a rush, because it is as cool as it feels being in the crowd and watching the performance, being up there and seeing the crowd in the way that you guys kind of control them and they're just consumed in the vibe and the music. It really is a really cool feeling. It's almost like a spiritual thing in a way.
Yeah, dude, there's no, it's hard to describe, man. It really, like, when you're on that stage for that 2 hours, you're really kind of in your own world with everybody. You're not, like, the outside doesn't matter. Everyone that's not in that venue, it's like clouds around the venue. You know what I mean? We're just in the moment with everybody, and kind of like, it's almost like a moment of, like, I don't know, like lawlessness almost, where no one could take away what you're doing right now. Like, you know, everything's in that moment. You know, obviously sometimes security guards fuck it up and take people's shit. But for us, and like you said, you feel from the stage that the energy just that the crowd sends to you is electrifying.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool thing, man. And I really am missing and thinking about the fact, because concerts for me in the summer are a big part of my summertime, you know? That's like my tradition, is going to shows, and even, you know, the camping part of it. And it's kind of like a little reunion with my college buddies, you know, going up to the Ledges to see you guys, or going to the Freak Stomp with my guys, Tropidelic, you know. So I'm definitely going to miss that. And I'm sure all your fans are missing it. So if you guys, Tropidelic has done a couple things like this, but have you guys done anything on your channel, like live performances or acoustics for your fans and stuff like that? Or you guys got anything planned?
We're going to start doing some soon. Kyle's done a couple Instagram lives, and we're going to be doing some Facebook Live stuff coming up. And I think, because even for us, like, we're staying separated too. Like, they were asking, hey, do you guys want to all get in a room and jam? I was like, well, everyone's that's kind of defeating the purpose of what's going on. So we're trying to, we'll do individual stuff, and we might put together like something like this, like a Zoom kind of jam session that we can put up for people. And
yeah, I would think if you did the IG Live split screen like this, I would think if you guys were both, in theory, if you're both playing and singing at the same time, it should just mesh over top of one another. Just like how sometimes I'm accidentally talking over top of you or whatever. It should go together, right?
Yeah. One of us would just have to go from a personal Instagram to join the Stoopid one and have some sort of fun. But yeah, we're kind of navigating new waters right now, just, you know, between lockdown with the family, becoming school teachers now, and trying to figure out that side of life, and trying to, you know, figure out what we're going to do musically. We just released a cool rendition of Kenny Rogers, The Gambler. Since he passed away, it kind of got swept under the rug that of his passing. He was such a great, you know, storyteller and performer. He was actually like one of the most successful musicians of all time, like as far as shows and everything. So it's pretty crazy when he passed, and everyone was kind of coronavirused out, and we had the Gambler just sitting in the vault kind of from the last recording session. So it was kind of cool to get that out.
Is that on iTunes, or is it something off your site, or how
yeah, I think it's on iTunes, it's on Spotify, it's on all those things. However you get, it's on all the digital platforms. I'm not a tech savvy kind of cat. You saw I was struggling even trying to get on your this is the first time I've gotten on one of these.
Right. Well, I'm real versed in Instagram, but anything else, I'm clueless, you know?
Yeah. This is the first like live story I've joined, though. I've never, that's why you were like, yeah, hit this. I'm kind of looking going, I can't even find it. What's going on?
But this has been cool, though. I mean, we get to kind of you and I get to kind of catch up a little bit and get to shoot the shit. And, you know, looks like there's 133 people watching right now, and I'll be able to see the stats when we're done of how many people actually joined in over the course of it. And
oh, cool.
You know, I'll post it up on YouTube and stuff like that too for anyone that missed it. So it was definitely cool for us to catch up, but I'm really looking forward to catching up either at Nelson's Ledges or at Red Rocks, you know, sometime in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, I mean, if we still get the green light, maybe the Ledges will stay in the fold, which I love. I hate having to miss the Ledges, honestly. That's a really fun place for us. Like, it's great catching up with all you guys too when we're out there, but the Ledges is just such a fun venue to play at. And like I said, if you can make it to Red Rocks, it's gonna be on, dude.
No, I'm definitely gonna come out there at some point. Like I said, this year's kind of in flux, so. But what would you say? All right, so Red Rocks we talked about. We talked about Nelson's Ledges, my spot here in Ohio. What's another venue that maybe that people don't know about, but is a really cool venue to play in the States? Maybe it's on a river, whatever it is, where there's some cool shit to do besides just the show.
this place that we play at Niagara Falls, I forget the name of the venue, honestly. Someone would have to like Google the band, but there's a venue in Niagara Falls where you literally, we hike down these trails, and you're not really supposed to go in the Niagara River, but we climb down the side of this mountain or this little like hillside, and
Mm-hmm.
we were able to go into the water, and the water is moving fast. Like we were,
Right.
I think we were either, I don't know if we were at the bottom or at the top. Either way, the water was just cooking. So you get to swim out, and when you're swimming out there, they got these crazy power boats that do like 65 miles an hour, like forest things, mashing through the water and doing power turns and everything. It's kind of crazy. But you're swimming in the Niagara River that's moving like 15 miles an hour, you know, so you get actually get a nice like little workout kind of swimming against the current, and
Mm-hmm.
the water is crispy, and that's a great place to play. And Marymore up in Washington, outside of Seattle. It's I think it's Redmond.
Is that the big outdoor one, the big amphitheater?
Yeah, but it's more just like it's like an open. You're playing in these amazing huge trees, kind of surround the whole venue, and it's all grass and the stage. So it's really beautiful. Like every year we play, it's the crowd up there is awesome. Rain or shine, like it doesn't matter. It can be raining and freezing, and the place is just packed, and you get the energy. It's like you're playing just for Mother Nature. It's pretty crazy. These trees are like 150 feet tall, just wrapped around the whole venue. And you can, and people walk through them to get up to the stage. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome, man. Well, those all sound like great places, and hopefully I'll get to see you play at all of those at some point in the future. You know, I think let's go ahead and wrap this up, and let's take it back to wrestling for a second. One thing to end on. So with you, you know, growing up in a wrestling family, coaching at one point, everyone in your family wrestled. So what would you say was one of the main kind of lessons or things that you've learned through wrestling that helped you as a musician, or as living that rock and roll life, or the grind of your early career or whatever? What do you think kind of helped you succeed in that way?
Well, I think the best message that was kind of instilled with me that my dad always said, it was basically 4 words: who holds you down? And I've kind of lived my whole life like that, as far as like, I never believed anyone could tell me I couldn't reach a certain platform of life. Whatever I was going for, I didn't think anything could stop me from getting there. And I think wrestling kind of prepares you for that. And my dad always told me that my whole life, like that literally, when I coached, I would say that to my own kids, because that's what he would say to us. And it's kind of like a staple for life. Like, if you want to succeed, who holds you down? Like, the only one that's going to get in your way is yourself.
No doubt.
And if you kind of maintain the drive and the push that got you to be that way, I think nothing can ever stop you from being successful. I mean, I think we live in a funny time, compared to the way that I grew up, and the way you grew up. And I think if we can still instill some of those values in the kids and keep that drive alive, I mean, obviously it's still there in a lot of people, but if we can just keep pushing that way of thinking, I think sky's the limit for anyone.
No doubt, man. I love it. Well, listen, man, it was great catching up with you today. Just want to